Good evening. Hello. Hi, good evening. Conscious creators. How you doing? It's Thursday. Thursday. Get everything kinda straight. It's Thursday, October. What is it? The 13th, 14th, the 13th. October the 13th. It's Thursday, October the 13th, and it's 7 o'clock. And it's time for the Conscious Creators Toolbox. It's this Thursday session of Conscious Creators Toolbox. So welcome, welcome, welcome everybody. I hope everybody's enjoying the fall weather, getting ready for Halloween and all the those holidays that immediately follow Halloween. I think let's see, there's Halloween, and I think voters, you get election day. I don't know if that's a holiday for some folk, maybe it is. Then there's, well, no, 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 yep, yep. But then there's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving comes in there. Veterans Day's in there somewhere, and then it's Christmas and New Year's, and that's my time of the year. I love the fall. I love the fall, and I love the winter, and I love all of the whole year round. But I think my favorite time of the year is probably the fall. I love the colors of fall, and the crisp air fall. So it's getting to be that kind of weather over here. Well, here in Metro Atlanta. I was talking to a friend of mine from Phoenix last night. And she said it was 90 in the 90s. So, and that's cool. I think that's cool. That's probably cool for the desert, for Phoenix out there. But anyway, we're enjoying it. I hope you guys are enjoying your week. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful week. Um, I don't have any outstanding news to share with you. I know you've probably been looking and listening to what's happening in and around the world, and all I can say is that namaste, and I pray for them, and I wish them, all things to get better. They're bound to get better. It's all in attitude, and anyway, all in the attitude and how you look at it. Anyway, so tonight, I'm kind of excited, somewhat excited. Tonight we're going to be talking about the ego, ego. Everybody's got one. Everybody's got one. Everybody's got an ego. Everybody's got it. So we're going to talk about your ego, and you can't leave home without it. So you guys pull up a seat, tune in, hang in there with me for the next 30, 40 minutes, something like that. I'm going to hopefully kind of rush in and rush out. Not too long tonight. But anyway, we're going to be talking about the ego. We're going to be talking about the ego, the master. I call it the master illusionist, the great illusionist, or I call tonight we're going to call it the master manipulator. But no, no love, no, no insult intended. We're just going to break some things down. The Conscious Creators Toolbox is really not a bashing session or time for bashing anybody or anything or any idea or any belief or any concept. We are here to share awareness, to open up our awareness and get a different perspective on things. And I'm not here to win any awards or no rah-rahs, or tune in. I hope you tune in. I hope you listen and hear something that you can give some thought to. Think about it. But just this is an awareness session. So ego, you're welcome in this house, okay? You're here with us. We welcome you. We love you. And I'm going to have a quick disclaimer, and so just to let you know, ego, how much we appreciate you. We know that we can't leave home without you. You were one of our first. When we arrived here, for me, some years ago, that little bitty baby, my mom and dad were all excited about, she's here. And we all arrived here, just fresh, fresh and just ready. And you were our first friend. You came in, you jumped in there, and you announced yourself, and you've been with us ever since. So we love you. So disclaimer here: no bashing. We're just to bring some awareness, a little bit more awareness to our conscious, aware, awakened uh, co-creators with the universe. We want them to be in the know. We wanna we wanna understand who our traveling partners are, who we're taking this journey in this third dimension, and the 3D and the physical world and Earth and this universe, who we're traveling with. So we're just going to share a little bit of information about ego tonight. And again, no bashing. Everything is done with so an intention of being aware so that we can make conscious, aware, informed choices and decisions with some of the information that hopefully you'll share tonight, that I'm sharing with you tonight. So anyway, again, welcome to the Conscious Creators Toolbox for the Thursday, October the 13th session. I'm going to apologize for the glare on my glasses. I'm kind of between glasses, and my doctor says I'm overdue, so I'm going to have to make sure the next pair I get, I gotta help get rid of the glare, because I just know it's kind of distracted sometimes. But anyway, without further ado, tonight I'm going to talk about what it seems like, what it seems like, and the master of making things seem like something else other than what it should be or ought to be, or we want it to be, or it's called, it's named, is ego. Ego is the master at it's like, it seems like, it's something like, ego. The first, let me again be clear of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about ego. No name calling. Ego is ego. Ego is our friend. Without ego, it would be a little bit, somewhat challenging. It would be challenging to really, oh, kind of navigate the third dimension. To be here in the third dimension, we need we need ego to be able to do that. And I'm not I can probably rattle off a whole list, and if you want to, you can talk to ego. You can ask ego what you down for, what you're here for. But basically, ego for me, anyway, I think I look at ego as being that part of the part of my personality, that part of my partner on this journey, and I call it a partner. My ego and I are buddies. So we're partners, but I'm the boss. I'm the boss. Okay. And ego's finally deciding. Okay, you can be the boss. You can be the boss. But anyway, we need ego because ego has this just nobody can do it better than creating an illusion for us so that we can uh, enjoy the third dimension. We can enjoy it. We can enjoy each other. Without ego, it would be a little bit difficult because we're conscious creators. We're aware and informed, and we know that we are one and the same. We are. There's no difference between us. We may look alike, we look different, we may act a little different, but basically we're part of one whole. You know, and without each individual, and I'm going to call us aspects of total creation because we are a little aspect of total creation. We're part of that, but we make up the whole. And without each individual one of us, without me, it would not be a complete universe. It would not be a complete oneness, would not be complete. All right. So each one of us are attributes of the oneness of that. So, but ego allows us, or gives us the illusion of being separate from one another so that we can interact and relate and just enjoy one another, experience one another. If we're running around and realizing that everything is the same, and we're all connected, we're all one, uh, you know it gets a little confusing, so we have to step outside, and ego helps us step outside of that oneness so that we can look at each other and start having experiences and enjoy and play and fight or whatever, all the things that we do with each other in that connection, those relationships. Ego's the man. Ego's the hey, that's what my ego. That's what I tell my ego, and that's why I look at my ego. That I appreciate you because you allow me to step outside of the whole total creation of what I am, to disconnect it in a way that I can experience it. All right. So I'm gonna give rah rah to ego for that. So that's what I mean when I say ego. For me, that's my partner. But tonight, for the sake of tonight, I want to express ego as an illusion, because basically ego is an illusion. You know, ego is an illusion, just like time is an illusion, and space is an illusion. Ego is ego is the master of illusions. Okay, ego has enough finesse and enough know-how to use the illusions of time and space to, create a little interest, to create, but make life a little more interesting and a little more challenging, and never a dull moment with ego around. Okay, so ego uses his skills in being an illusionist to actually to actually just create, you know excitement. All right. But Wayne Dwyer, he says that ego is an illusion, and it's a very influential illusion, unlike time and space, which is kind of, they just do what they do. They just there for you to, kind of motive kind of. Let me just do real quick. I might need to put myself on timeout because my phone is trying to ring on me. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, so but Wayne Dwyer says that, you know yes, ego is an illusion, but it is a very influential illusion. And influential means that it has a way of influencing absolutely, really, pretty much everything about our lives, that we allow that illusion or ego to influence. And without some boundaries, or some um, negotiating a little relationship, and putting everybody, keeping everybody in the right lane and in the right, you take care of this, I take care of that, that's your job, that's my, helping ego understand its position and its place, um, makes it a little bit less havoc and less, just less messy. Okay, so ego is my partner. My partner is ego. All right, and I hope that you can say the same for your egos, that it's partners. But let me tell you, without establishing those boundaries and establishing those responsibilities, and who's on first base, if you're giving everybody their assignment, ego would be the boss. Right, ego would be the captain of your ship, if you allow ego to be the captain of your ship. And until we become aware and awaken and conscious of who we are, and because we are conscious, we're conscious ones. We are aware, awakened, and we know who we are. We know what we are. We know whose we are. So we are in a really good position to help ego understand that no, 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 you're not me. You're not me. You're not, no, no, you're not me. You're not, the person that gives me those thoughts. You're not, no, you're not, no. I am the captain of the gene ship, all right? This is my reality. And you are a part of that reality, sure enough, ego, but I'm the captain of it, all right? So I get to decide who come, who go, and how we're gonna do it, and when we're gonna do it, and of course, I need you. I need you to navigate this 3D world, and so I can have a wonderful experience and a good time. So I need you, all right. But let's get it clear. Let's get it very, very clear. I am the captain of the ship. I am the creator. I am the master. I am the manifester. I am the one that decides what's going to happen up in here. All right. So so as long as you have an understanding with ego like that, then you're cool. Everything is going to be all right for the most part. But you got to stay aware. You got to stay aware of your spot as captain, and all the players on your all the everybody in the ship, all the crew. the whole crew. You gotta know what everybody's doing. The captain's supposed to know what everybody's doing on the ship. Okay, so don't let don't let don't even let ego think that he's the first mate unless you decide that he's the first mate. Okay, you get to decide if he or she, ego, is the first mate, or where on the ship he's going to be hanging out, and what his job is, and when you know when you're going to call on him, and you know what you expect from it. You know, just have that relationship. So tonight, what I'm going to do is I want to point out. I want to bring some characteristics and some traits, some yeah. Let's talk a little bit about ego, so that you will get a better understanding of just what you got there. Okay, who you're hanging out with. All right. So ego, again, when gone unaware, when you're just just not paying attention to what's going on, and you're just floating along, and you're having your human experience, and you're not really tuned in and focused in on who's on first, who's on second, and who your crew. You just kicking back on the ship, smoking your cigars and drinking your rum. I don't know, whatever. But but while you're doing that, ego ego is having a blast and making a mess of stuff. Okay, doing all kind of things, and I do mean without you being aware of what's going on. Ego can wreak a lot of havoc in your life, can really make a mess that and no offense, ego, that's just the way you are. That's how you have fun. That's how you roll. But you have to go around and clean up stuff, and redo stuff, and undo, and patch up, and amend, and ask for forgiveness, and all those things, and just just clean up the mess. So it's always good to be aware of where ego is and what's going on with ego. Okay, and and just keep it. Just make sure that you have assigned ego something, some assignment and some expectations, so that ego will you confer, consult with ego on this and that. But always be aware of what ego is up to. Okay, that's a just a little advice. I would advise everybody to be aware of what ego is up to. Don't let ego run wild. You know, keep him on a short leash. And that's all I can get. That you know what? Ego likes that. Ego likes to be up close and personal with you, and to be recognized, and he loves acclamations, and he loves to be given high fives, and called upon, and given prestigious assignments, and congratulations when he just he loves praise. Ego, yeah, your ego loves praise. So be kind to ego, love ego, and show ego your appreciation, because ego thrives on that, thrives on all those things. So now, as far as ego being, a busybody, and just wreaking havoc, but it doesn't look, he doesn't really mean to be havoc. I don't think. He just want to exist. That's part of this part of how this, that's his existence. Without without um, without having um, the assignment, if you would, to or something to do, some assignment to do, ego would be kind of pressed for. Well, it will just he's going to get in trouble. He's going to get in trouble because he's going to be doing his own thing, and his own thing is not usually a part of your agenda. So you make sure that it, ego understands your agenda. And again, I can't really fault ego for taking over when he can or she can, because somebody's got to run the ship. you know so if you are running around smoking cigars and drinking rum, and having a ball and not taking care of business, then ego, somebody's got to run the ship, so ego jumps in. So be careful, be very, very careful to make sure that you are on the job, that you are being the captain of your ship, being the captain of your reality, of your life. Because if you don't, ego is always eager to jump right in, and stand in your place. Okay, so be cautious about that. Now, I used to think of ego when before I really got to know, and really kind of sat down and really talk to, kind of figured this thing out. I used to think of ego as the shadow of the spirit man. I said, I know that the spirit wants you just, to wants me to have life and more life and abundant life. And ego has another agenda that's totally opposite to me, totally opposite of of the spirit man. So I used to think it was a shadow. But then I thought about that. I says, now being a shadow and a reflection is that's too easy of a disguise. So I know that ego uses disguises, but not in that kind of way. Not in that. That's too obvious. It's too obvious to say, well, uh, this is what the spirit would do. So this is no. That's not how ego rolls. So no, ego no. But again, I'm not talking about shadows and reflections, and I'm not talking about that particular aspect of ego tonight. What I want to talk about tonight is something that ego uses um, very cleverly and very evilly, and it's almost it's really some something that that's part of what he does to help us again maneuver and manage and kind of get around in the 3D, you know, and that is unfortunately what Albert Einstein called a tragedy. That one of the tragedies of humankind, like the human experience. He says that separateness is a tragedy to us. That illusion, the illusion of separateness, is a tragedy. And he had his reasons. He had his reasons. And when you stop and think about it, as when we feel apart from the whole of who we are, the oneness that we are, it does. It causes us all types of problems with our ability to create, our ability to relate to one another. Um, we start comparing ourselves to each other and contrasting ourselves to each other and acting like we are separate. When, as conscious and aware and awakened beings, we know that we are all one. We are one with the universe. We're one with God. We're one with each other. Where there is no separation of us. We are part of the whole. And without each attribute, and we got each one of us a little attributes of that whole, the whole wouldn't be whole. So we recognize the importance of who we are, the worth of who we are, the necessity of who we are, and that's that's conscious awareness, and that's how we maintain our all of our abilities and our powers and our beliefs of we can do and have and be what our creator can be, because we are creators just like our creator. So being separate is something that ego uses very well to maintain ego's position, to do ego's job, to wreak havoc sometimes in our relationships and in our lives and in our realities. So I want to give you three ways that ego actually uses separateness, that illusion of being separate, to to kind of cause us problems, to cause us a little bit of grief and just like Einstein says, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy that illusion of separateness creates all kind of just problems for us when we really step into that illusion and live and react and have our realities and our beliefs are centered around uh, separateness, when we know darn well as conscious and aware and awakened beings that we are one, all one. But one of the ways, well, there are three ways that I'm going to talk about tonight, and those three ways are basically ego uses manipulates the illusion of separateness to one, keep us keep us from being in touch with reality, right? Because when you feel like you, because the reality is that we are one. So, but when we have that concept or that idea or that belief that we are separate, we act a totally different way. We act, and we just have a different experience of reality. All right. The second way he does it is he uses he uses the illusion. There's an illusion. It uses the illusion of separateness to create unrealistic expectations and entitlements for him, for ego, consequently for ourselves, and gives us, uses it to impress those expectations on us, or those unrealistic expectations and entitlements on us. And the third thing is, ego uses the illusion of separateness to make us dependent on external validation. Right. Now, how does he do that? How does ego use illusion to keep us out of touch with reality? Right. One of the ways is, and again, no bashing, this is just how ego rolls and how ego operates. And understanding this will help, will help you going forward when you recognize these traits in yourself. All right. Um, ego keeps you kind of out of touch with reality by preventing you from hearing critical, I'm going to say feedback, critical feedback, from other people, from each other. We don't, we start, people start talking to us and sharing, things, feedback about something that we've said, or some behavior that we've done, or, or something, and, just some feedback about something that we related, or in some form of our connections. And we put our defenses up, and we decide that no, I'm not going to receive that feedback. So it's okay. It's okay to listen. It's okay to listen. You don't have to agree, but it's okay to listen, because listening to, even if the information is, in your opinion, not accurate or whatever, just hearing that from the other person would give you an opportunity to maybe come back later, and hopefully in a calm way, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. But ego wants you to have your defenses up. It don't want you to listen, and be acceptable, or be able to accept that feedback. Also, ego makes you overestimate your ability, and what you can and can't do, and your worth. All right. Now, what does it have to do with separateness? Well, we're all the same. We're all equally valuable. We're all worthy. We are no more worthy. We're no more worthy than your neighbor, than the person that you may have passed, going back and going at lunch, sitting on the corner with his hat, taking, begging for donations or whatever, or standing on the, at the stoplights, selling roses, whatever. We're no more worthy than that person. We are as valuable, as worthy as any and each and all of us. We're each one of us, each person, no matter what station they happen to be in life that we want to put them in, they are priceless to the maker, and that's all that matters. All right. To our creator, we're all the same. We're all worthy. We're all priceless. We are beloved. And no matter what we've done or not done, where we live or don't live, what position we hold or don't hold, how much money we make, or how poor we are, it doesn't matter. We are priceless as beings, as human beings, to the maker. And hopefully understanding that we are one will help us, that illusion that we're separate just creates those separations, if you would, and those stations, and those categories, and those labels, and those places that we put each other. And then ego would have you always feel like that you're just a little bit higher than the guy next door. But the bottom line is that as a human being, and to the maker, we're all one. We're all the same. So be watchful of that. Be watchful of that attitude that, you know ego may, kind of push off, and you know have you feel. Also, one other thing about, you know reality, sometimes ego will have you feel like that. All right, mm, I really, I really, um, I'm really able to do, and you can do all things. Trust me. You put you whatever it is that you believe, you can do that. And you don't have to uh, prove it to anyone. And it's not you're not doing it to prove anything to anyone. You're doing it because that's who you are. You're a creator. You're a manifester. You can do it, but so can the other person. And the only reason that the other person doesn't do it is maybe they choose not to, or maybe they have a different belief. Just because you believe different does not make you, again, it doesn't make you any better or any worse than the other person. Just because you make a choice that is different than the other person, whether you like that choice or not, does not, still doesn't make anybody any better or less or worse. Everybody is priceless. Everybody is priceless, and the concept of separateness distorts that truth. All right, that reality. All right. Number two was creating an unrealistic. What is it? Yes, well, we know that we can agree that if we have the concept or the idea of separateness, we automatically have walls built up between to between ourselves and someone else, and we sometimes we look at those walls and we call them boundaries, but a wall is not the same as a boundary, by the way. Um, we have these walls, but you're trapped too. When you're behind that wall, just like the other person's on the other side of the wall. You're behind. You're closed off too. So be cautious and be careful of when you are convinced by ego that you really need to protect yourself by putting up a wall of defense. No, a wall of defense. The only thing is just pins you in. All right. Be as open as you can and be as transparent as you can so that you can see both ways. You can see in and you can see out. You can, and you can still have your boundaries. Again, boundaries, don't let ego convince you that a wall is a boundary, because a wall is not a boundary. All right. It's not. It's not the same. The second thing is that ego uses separateness to create unrealistic expectations, entitlements. Okay. Again, ego makes you assume that you deserve something or deserve a specific something because you earned it. You know, you are you deserve this promotion. Now, I earned this promotion, and I'm entitled to it. I'm definitely entitled to it. Well, uh, and you may feel that way. Ego makes you feel that way because look what you've done. Look, you worked hard for this, and you've sweated, and you've put in the years, and I don't know why that man won't give you the bonus that this promotion that you've been asking for, and you need to walk up in there and you need to tell him how you feel about it, and you quit. Just leave it. Go. You don't have to be there. You can take your ego will have you doing all kind of craziness, thinking that you deserve a certain thing, and this is mine, and because it's mine, because it's what I'm due. This is due me. When in fact, you know, you have again, mm, to meet not only your goal. You don't get to set the goal. The bosses get to set the goal. You have to meet their goal and their expectations. So talk about it, as they say. Don't go in there and tell the boss, I did this, and the boss said, well, yeah, everybody else did that too, and that's what you got paid for. So you didn't do any more than anybody else. You just say, come on. Entitlement and entitlement and deserving, or expectations and entitlements. Entitlements will tell you that this is okay. Entitlements assume this is mine. I've earned it. At the same time, entitlements nickel and dime other people because it can't conceive the value of the other person. So it puts you entitlement. Ego would have you assume that you are entitled because you are who you are, and they are who they are. I'm this is this I'm entitled to this because blah, whatever, you can pronounce it. But again, it ego kind of usually overstates it all. It kind of blows it up, makes the picture seem a whole lot different than it truly is. Okay, so be cautious and be careful with ego. Very boastful, very, you know, big and bad. Everything, the bigger the bad, the bigger the better, the louder the better. But just, be cautious. Just understand that ego will overstate. Ego will blow the picture up and make it look real pretty. And then, when you start looking a little bit closer, you realize that, oh well, it looks like, you're on an even scale with, your results are the same as this person over here. And just because you came in, you know uh, a week earlier than this person, but the results, again, be cautious, because ego uses that to help, push you out there and get you on a limb. And then, you're then ego's long gone when it's time to start pedaling the boat to get back to shore. Okay, he'll have you out in the middle of the water. The last thing is that ego makes you dependent on external validation. If you let ego take too much control of yourself, you become incredibly dependent on praise outside of yourself, looking for people to give you the applause and the acclamations, and to confirm and to verify who you are, rather than you knowing who you are and not having to look outside of yourself to confirm and to validate who you are. When you're conscious, like we are, conscious, aware, and awakened, we know who we are. We know what we are, and we know whose we are. We do not need to go ask somebody to confirm that. We know that because we know it. Nobody has to tell us that. And if we want to understand ourselves even better, or to get to know us, to get to know things, understand things about us, that understanding doesn't come from outside of yourself. It comes from inside. Now, ego would have you to make to, well, what does your neighbor say? What are they saying? And then, then ego, after you hear what they say, then again, your neighbor will tell you, and give you their feedback. And then ego may not like what you heard. He said, "How, what do they know? He's being critical. He's, that it has to be praised. If it's not something that's glorifying you and making you feel 10 feet taller than you are." Remember, ego's the master of seems like. So he makes you feel like, or seem like, you're taller than you are. Then, ego don't want to have no part of it, and he don't want you to have any part of it either. So be aware of those three things. Be aware that ego don't want you to be in touch with reality. He don't want you to face the truth, live the truth, be authentic, be okay with feedback from people. Because if you get feedback, and if it's something that I can't, I really, this is something that ego will never help you understand this. If you get feedback and it's something that touches a button or hits that's an opportunity for you to look at it, not to get upset about it, but to look at it and wonder, figure out why that hit the wrong button, or got you all upset. It was, triggered you in some way. Feedback is good. It's a look at it as it's positive in any way, whether it's an acclamation or something that stings. Because if it's something that stings, then it's just something that's letting you know that maybe you gotta go a little bit deeper to see why that button caused a trigger, caused an upset. All right. Ego would have you blow the steam and tell the person off, but I would tell you that that's the time when you need to use that information to self-examine. All right. Now, again, ego don't want you to self-examine. Ego wants you to tell this person off. They don't know what they're talking about, and lose a friend, lose a neighbor, lose a spouse, or lose a whatever, lose a job, but you're okay because you told them, right? But that's separating you. That's keeping you apart from reality, keeping you apart from the true who you are. So be watchful of that. And understand too that because of how to entitlement, the thing about entitlement, entitlement assumes this is mine, I've earned it, and at the same time entitlement nickels and dimes other people because it can't conceive, ego can't conceive the value, the valuing others. The ego exists, strictly exists because of separateness. When we're living the reality of oneness, ego is a very quiet person, just a very quiet entity. Just because it doesn't, ego with for ego there has to be a winner and a loser. For ego there has to be a hero and a villain. In For hero there has have to be good people and bad people. Because if it was just all the same, everybody was the same, then what does that leave ego? Ego has to have a position, and it's got to be outside of, you know the good and bad. If it's not a if it's not a villain and a hero in the picture, in the story, then where's he got it? What's, when everybody's the same, and like, what good is what do I do with that? Ego says. No, somebody's got to be the winner. Somebody's got to be the loser. Somebody's got to, be the hero, and somebody, this is how ego thinks, and that's ego's idea of managing your ship. If you allow ego that position to manage and captain your ship, so just be, kind of be aware of that. One of the things that that came to me when I was getting ready for this, and and I wanted to share it, and I'm not sure where it came, why it was given to me, but it was given, and I wanted to share, and it was actually was a proverb. It was actually two different proverbs, but this particular one was from Proverbs in the Bible, and it said that there is a way that seems right to man, but it ends in death. Hmm. I think that when I received that and I was thinking about it, I said, okay, ego will if you allow ego to captain your ship and to make all the decisions and to lead you and guide you and be the master of the the manager of what's going on in your life, controlling your life, being that person that directs your life, then you're going to be forever separate from who you really are. You're going to be forever confused about the reality of what you are and what's available to you. You'll never ever step into master, being the master manifester, the master creator of your own reality and your own life. You've just given all that responsibility, if you've allowed it and given it away to ego. And ego, again, thrives on illusion, thrives on you being concerned and overly and worried about this or that, being fearful of whatever. Uh, Anything that's dark or unknown, ego, is going to lead you around it. He's not gonna lead you into, he's not gonna allow you to expand your reality. He's gonna keep you, it's gonna keep you kind of safe, in that comfort zone. And the comfort zone is exactly where ego does his best. Step outside every now and then, just allow ego the opportunity to realize that there's a lot more to all of this than just the comfort zone. There's a lot more than to this than there's a winner and a loser. There's a lot more to this than having to compare myself to my neighbor or feel myself bigger or better than someone. There's a lot more to this. Teach, and it's okay. It's their job to, again, egos are that's their job, to keep us safe. But help ego understand that safe, what kind of safe you want. You determine what safety is, and don't necessarily totally rely or hand it over, hand those decisions over to ego, right? If you do not step up and be the captain or the be the master of your reality, the creator of your life, then ego will do it. Somebody has to. Somebody has to do it. You don't just wander around and la la land and just things just happen. Ego is more than willing to be the director of your life. But if you allow that, like Wayne Dwyer said, and I think I posted something on Facebook, that whole little, I think it was almost a, it was in his book. He talked about, the book, I can't remember the title, but it was with ego, something with ego. But he said that if you allow ego to be the master, if you don't do it, if you don't do it, you allow ego the responsibility of directing and controlling your job, your life, you just understand that it will be very, very limited. It will be very, very isolated. You will be, and when you finally come to realize it, you'll have a nice mess to clean up, um, because you can only do so much in the comfort zone, right? You can only do so much in the comfort zone. So if you want to expand your life, if you want to live a full life, then you're going to have to be you're going to have to be the master and the manager and the captain of your ship. So don't be fooled by all of ego's illusions and tactics and disguises and tricks and fast talk and just helping you, showing you how you can keep everybody in line, and don't fall for that. Do not fall for that, because ego is a as his job is to structure and process illusions for you to generate. This is nature. Ego is an illusion. Ego's nature is an illusion, but we need him. We appreciate him. We just have to help ego and help ourselves understand what position and what role ego will play in your life, in your reality, in your decisions, in the choices that you make. You need ego. Ego is, like, yeah, first one of the first entities that we were introduced to when we came to this beautiful third dimension to experience our our humanness, our human beingness, our physical being. And ego will be with us until we leave it. And we need ego. And find ego's rightful place in the scheme of your life and the reality and the creation and the manifestation in your experiences in your life. And be friends, be partners with ego, so that you can have and you can manifest the life and the realities and have the experiences that you desire, that you choose to have, that you manifest by your choices. Like Dwyer says, or like Albert Einstein says, our greatest tragedy is the illusion of separateness. Ego would not exist without separateness, but and that illusion, we use that illusion. We're aware that it is an illusion. Be aware that it is an illusion. We use that illusion to help us experience life here on earth, in this planet, in the physical. Without that illusion, it would be a whole different experience. But understanding that and being aware of that is 90% of the fun. All right, because we get to use that information, those illusion of time and illusion. These are things that that's helpful to us. The illusion of time, the illusion of space. It keeps us, it keeps us situated. It keeps us coming and going, and not running into each other, and not to have kind of collisions. And but the bottom line is, we are still one. We're still outside the illusion, in the all of this, in the real, true universe creation. We are one. We are all one and the same. We're all priceless. We are worthy. We are beloved. We are loved. We're one. And that's that's how I mean that's how it is. That's exactly how it is. But to experience and to enjoy our humanness here, we need we need ego uh, to play those, to be that master illusionist, be that master manipulator of illusions, so that we can be challenged, we can have fun, we can not have so much fun, we can have choices, we can do the things that we want to do, good, bad, or indifferent, but we can do them and we can have the experience. And without that, it would be a lot different, a lot different. But just be aware. This whole thing, this whole night's discussion basically was, again, not to bash ego, not to tell you how terrible ego is, because, like I said, these illusions are very necessary for us to enjoy our life here. But be aware of what you're enjoying and be aware of what's happening so that you can be the captain. You can be the decision maker. You can be the director. You can be the manifestor and the creator of your reality and your experiences. You get to be the boss. And you partner with ego and all of the other actors and bits and pieces and parts and attributes of this awesome creation. But this is your beingness. This is your I amness. This is your this is you. This is who you are. The authentic you. So be all of you and be your boss. Be your captain. That's all I have tonight. That's all I have tonight. Again, I'll say be aware. Be aware. Understand that. Understand who, what, and whose you are. Love each other, and above all, and above all things, know that know that you are, and not just you're an attribute of the whole. Without you, it wouldn't be a completeness. Without you, each one of us makes up the whole. Minus us, so we are all worthy. We're all priceless to the matter, to the maker that made us, to our master, to our great creator, to our great creator. We matter, each one of us. That's all I have tonight. Appreciate you joining me, and be kind to ego, because ego will be kind to you. Just remember who ego is. All right. Take care, and I will see you next week. Manifest best. I love you. God loves you, and you are loved. You are the beloved. Good night. See you next week.